On our way walking back, the whole side of the stands was actually the opposite stand where the rest of our team was sitting. But they just basically, when we walked by, everybody was cheering, go Mississippi State, standing up and clapping for us.
Again, just sort of gave us a sense of pride, that we're representing Mississippi State, and this is what Mississippi State students can do.
Well, basically, the entire time we were senior design, I thought the playoffs were just going to be a crapshoot. It was going to be just luck because, you don't know what another robot's going to do. And I really didn't like the format of it because we spent so much time and effort on this robot, and so did the other 7 teams who were in the playoffs. And now all of a sudden, you're just driving around on the same course as these other teams are flying around.
I think it was just the unknown. The robot, Lunar had never gone against any other robot ever.
Initially, I was concerned that robots were going to be hitting each other and stuff was going to be breaking.
I mean, we were all worried about getting hit and concerned about what that might do.
The biggest concern was always damage, whether a robot would take one of our sensors offline.
I just hated to see all that time and effort and then it'd just be demolished, basically.
We had a pretty heavy collision with them. We both had the same strategy of go to the center line and then try to go get the black block, and we both went and pretty much rammed each other head on.
I was just kind of holding my breath to see if it started moving again after it hit it.
After some wrestling, we managed to get free of each other, and in that process, Lunar was turned around.
Which was okay because we were supposed to go to all 4 corners of the base. Well, what happened was we went to the wrong corner to begin with, but we then started heading towards our home base, but got off course again by one track being on the rocks and one track being on the sand, and we actually missed our home base, and we ended up not getting back to our home base. We ended up just getting stuck. But fortunately, the other robot didn't make it back to its home base either. And so we ended up with a tie. They said, okay, we'll redo it. If you tie again, then they're going to take the highest scoring loser.
I think there was about 6-8 minutes between those rounds, and that gave us time to go back and put that loop in. And the second time we were able to make it back to home base.
That one was a lot more relaxing because it just performed very well. We got to the center line and got the black block. There was one problem there. They had an arm, and they kept trying to grab our robot.
They were throwing their gripper down on Lunar repeatedly, which we didn't like at all.
They thought we were blocked, and they put their arm down, and man, they grabbed on right around the servo that we had that rotated our gripper mechanism. And it spun us around and got us all out of whack, and we were lucky to get back home that round.
We ended up picking up 3 blocks, and we were so off course that we were looking for blocks, and we came back to our home base, and I actually picked up the robot with only 3 blocks in it because they were stuck on a wall.
I mean, I just felt lucky. I honestly thought that the playoffs were just totally luck. I really didn't feel confident really in any round of the playoffs. I felt confident in the first rounds, but not the playoffs.
I was still confident, and I remember sitting there, we had dinner beforehand, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, we could actually walk away with the first place trophy.
We had seen their robot perform. They were faster than us, but we thought we had an advantage against them just because we always picked up 4 blocks and got back to our home base, and it seemed like the way theirs worked was they just ran around for a couple of minutes and then came back with however many blocks they got.
The championship round was in a different room than in the other rounds, and we had never run a robot in that room, and the lighting was a lot different. So I was nervous because, yet again, they introduced more unknowns.
We actually went in there and tested it and it seemed to work fine. Final round, they were faster than us, so they beat us to the black block, which wasn't a huge deal because, we could still get 4 blocks and beat them, even if they had the black block. And so we just started go around getting blocks, and pretty soon I noticed our block sensor was not seeing blocks. I mean, we would drive right by a block and it wouldn't see it and turn and go get it.
It started driving by blocks, and it was like, oh, it's not seeing them anymore. And I guess at that point we knew the sensors weren't working anymore and that something was going wrong, and it was just kind of like, well, I hope it runs over one.
When it started messing up, it was awful.
And we picked up 2 blocks, and we're trying to pick up our 3rd block, and I noticed that our sweeper, that we pick up 1 block and it sweeps it to one side, we pick up another one and it sweeps it to the other side, and we pick up the 3rd one and it sits right in the middle. Well, somehow our sweeper had malfunctioned and our 2nd block was actually sitting in the middle. And so when we were trying to pick up our 3rd block, there was nowhere to slide it because there was a block already in the middle.
We got turned around at some point, and we were hitting things, and their UAB's robot damaged us. It was just everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
I know that before we started slamming into other robots, everything was working fine.
I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out why it had happened. And as soon as that started messing up, I started getting nervous.
We tried to pick it up about 3 or 4 times and actually finally got lucky and ended up getting jammed up on top of our rotating servo. And so we had 3 blocks, and UAB had gotten back to their base with 3 blocks. So there was 1 block still out there. We could beat them if we could get that 4th block, but the problem was our sweeper had malfunctioned and there was no possible way for us to pick up the 4th block with a block jammed in there like that, because there was no way that thing would have been able to rotate up. And so we ended up getting back to our home base with 3 blocks, and we decided to call time right then and there in hopes that maybe they had a pushing penalty or something like that. And ended up they didn't, and so they beat us, but we each had 3 blocks, but they had 3 higher scoring blocks than we did.
Immediately after we lost to UAB, we took it back to the competition room in the same original settings and ran it, and it ran perfectly.
Just a fluke thing that happened, and I think if we run it again, even in the same conditions, it probably wouldn't happen.
We had an impressive robot. It was a very durable robot. Of all the robots that ran into it, grabbed it, hit it with arms, nothing got damaged. Everything was fully functional after that. So I was pretty happy with that.
I'm happy with 2nd place. We got to the final round. Our initial goal was just to get in the top 8. Because after the top 8, we didn't know what was going to happen.
I don't know how important it was to everyone else, but it was pretty important to me because that shows how well our design worked and all the time and effort we put into it.
I wish we could have got 1st, but being 2nd out of, I guess, 38 universities is pretty good.
I think everybody was really happy with how far we made.
I'm very proud of the work the team did. Quite a few times during the semester when we had some difficulties among the team, but I think that we really came together, and even through those difficulties worked well together.
I think we did a very good job. I know that if we did it again, we'd probably do things differently, but that's just what you learn as you go through the process. But I think we did really good for the time we had.
There's a sense of accomplishment, but made some good friends as well. Working on this has shown me, I think, a little more about what I'm interested in.
I've learned so much. If I wasn't in Secon, I wouldn't have learned as much as I have about PCB design. I wouldn't have been able to get the team experience that I've gotten. This is the first time I've worked with 8 people on a project this big, with any people on a project this big. So it's a lot of experience that we can use in our future careers.
All I've learned about building a robot and building it with a team, interacting with everybody.
The fact that I actually finished it, and I feel like this more than anything makes me qualified to be an engineer.
I think just the time you spend with your team, the friendships you make, I think we did one heck of a job, but I definitely think the most important thing was just kind of what you learned from being in a large team like that for so long.
I think